with anyone. I could be with anyone. You're here with me. You're here with me. You could be around with me. You could be with anyone. I could be with anyone. You're here with me. You're here.
All right, so here we are with another My Take question. Now, this is a segment that I do where people don't necessarily call me and ask for advice because I don't like to give advice, but I just like to give my observations or my take on situations that occur in people's lives and just try to give different perspective. So here we go. This young lady wrote in and she specifically asked, am I justified in being disgusted with my boyfriend for abandoning his cat? Now, for some people, this is a no-brainer because for some people, the cats, the dogs, these are little fur babies. They see these cats as almost part of the cats or dogs or pets is part of their family. So when they talk about somebody abandoning an animal or something that they had committed to taking responsibility for, they definitely see it as a red flag, and I can understand that. Let's listen to what this person has to ask, and we'll give my take as we go along. All right? So don't forget, you guys can leave your take down below. I'm interested in finding out what you guys think and what your perspective is as well. So here we go. I don't know if I'm just being dramatic, but bear with me. Okay. You're not necessarily being dramatic. If you feel a certain way, you feel that way. That's all fine and good. So my boyfriend and I have been dating for 4 years. I graduated college a year ago, and since then, he has been talking a lot about moving in together. Now, moving in together, especially after college or after those big benchmark cornerstone events in your life, is a huge deal. Moving in with anybody is always a huge deal, even if it's a friend, because the truth of the matter is you can get along with people as friends and be, thick as thieves. Every time you see one, you see the other. But the moment you move in with somebody, you get to see the real them. You get to see a lot more of them. And in some cases, it just doesn't work out. Like you could have great friends who you could be fantastic with. Oh, that's my brother from another mother. That's my sister from another mister and all that. But the second you move in together, all that is out the window and you stop talking. So you always want to keep that in mind as well. So moving in together is in fact a big deal. He has had a cat for about 4 years. He was a stray that was outside his window and he started to feed him. Yeah, never feed a cat unless you plan on keeping that cat because once you feed them, they never leave. So he started to feed him and let him eventually come in. At first, he adored the cat and had been thinking of getting a pet anyway, so it worked out perfectly. And that's the way it works sometimes. You get, oh yeah, I'd love to have a cat. That'd be a lot of fun. But cats, pets, dogs are a lot of work. Cats seem to be less, hands-on as dogs are, because dogs you have to make sure you walk them and all that. Cats are a little more independent, but, cats are a little finicky in their personalities. And either way, if you go on long trips or you're going away for an extended amount of time or you're going to be out of the home for an extended amount of time, cats, dogs, or animals require you to make sure that you have some care for them. So there's always going to be something involved. And this is not discounting the fact that you have to make sure that they're being taken care of medically. I think a lot of people overlook that. Well, I don't bother taking my dog or my cat to the vet. It's very important that you take your animal to the vet. Get them the shots and things that they need. Make sure they're getting their checkups so that everything is in working order. It's just like going to the doctor for people. It's important. So cats, dogs, and pets can be very costly or expensive in that regard. Especially when you start talking about dogs, the bigger the dog is, the more expensive the dog becomes. So just something to keep in mind. He bought all the supplies and seemed to really enjoy having the company. Okay. That started going downhill about a year later. So he's not a long-term guy. So he enjoys the short-term newlywed portion of the relationship, but he doesn't do well with the long commitment. That would be a red flag. I moved in with him for about 3 months during a gap between my family leaving a house to move to another house. It was at this point I realized that I was allergic to the cat. Oh, wow. Okay. So you moved in with the cat and you started realizing that you might have an allergy to the cat. Now, here's a funny story. When I first started dating my wife, she had cats. She's a cat person. I'm a dog person. And I'm allergic to cats. right? Or at least I was. And for whatever reason, maybe it was the power of love or whatever, but for whatever reason, as our relationship started to develop and as I went around more and eventually as we progressed in our relationship, I didn't have any issues with cat. In fact, she had a cat. She had the first cat that I ever really truly liked. Little Jay. We call him Jay. He was a cool cat. Cool cat, like a dog. Like Jay was my cat dog. So I got over being allergic to cats. So it can happen. Not saying it's a plan, but it can happen. I wasn't initially too concerned. I took allergy medicine, brushed the cat regularly, and swept up, and kept him off the bed, and that helped out a lot. Okay, I didn't take medicine, but that is an option that you can take medicine, but it is something to consider, especially as you're planning to expand your relationship and take that next step in your relationship. The animals and how you deal with them is going to be a point, or could be a sticking point. The issue comes in with the fact that my boyfriend hates cleaning up after the cat and feel like it's too much of a task. Oh, wow. So he doesn't like cleaning up after the cat. Does that mean, because apparently she was doing all the cleaning as far as, petting the cat or brushing the cat out, making sure all the hair and stuff is removed. So the cleanup of the cat is most likely the pan, the litter pan, and cleaning around the water dish and maybe the food bowl. So he's not liking that, so which indicates to me that he doesn't really want to be a pet owner. And it's good that you figure these things out. Doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad person or you're going to be a bad parent or a bad lover or whatever the case may be, but these are things that to kind of put into the Rolodex, or at least into the old computer, as you're trying to calculate whether the relationship is going to work out and what type of person he is. Not saying it's a determinative factor, but it's certainly something that you can put in to try to make that assessment. After I moved back with my family, he rarely brushed him or swept, and the hair began to just pile up within his place. Patches would collect in the corners. You could see it floating in the air and on every surface of his place. This dude don't like to clean. His house is dirty. You got cat hair floating in the air, bruh. You need to sweep your room, sweep your house. What are you doing? Yeah, the bachelor pad. Because I wasn't there to maintain it, the cat hair made my allergies a lot worse, so I wouldn't come over as often. Okay, so the cat being there started to impact your relationship. Now, in the present, we have been discussing moving in a lot. And while finances had been my main hesitation, okay, you got to get that paper in order, make sure that you guys aren't moving in and struggling with each other. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing, but struggling is struggling. And it shouldn't be something you shoot for. So it's always smart to make sure that you're able to do it in a way, because truth be told, one of the big stressors of any relationship would be the finances in that relationship. People say that, fidelity breaks up marriages and this, that, and other. No, it's not always fidelity. Sometimes it's kids and it's finances. And sometimes those finances have a lot to do with those kids, because you're trying to figure out, how much you going to pay on birthday presents, Christmases, how much you going to go out, how far you going to go on the first birthday that the child ain't even going to remember. So the finances always play a part, and it's, even though it's understated, it's always there, and it should be held to some prominence. We'll go back now in the present. We have been discussing moving in a lot, and while finances had been my main hesitation, the cat was also a concern. The cat has had fleas multiple times because my boyfriend refuses to maintain flea treatment, claiming it is too expensive. Then it's too expensive for you to have a cat. Point blank. If you can't afford the flea treatment, if you can't afford to make sure that the cat is getting the shots and things of that nature, especially if it's going out. If it's leaving your home, the cat has to have those shots. And in some jurisdictions, if your cat is outside, your cat or your dog or whatever is outside the home, and it gets into any altercation, they're going to ask for that documentation. And this could cause for the loss of your animal if you don't have the up-to-date shot records. Just something to keep in mind. Check your jurisdiction, call a lawyer if you need to, but that's just something to keep in mind. I got a dog about 2 years ago after talking about it for over a year, and I'm pretty involved in his health and will not let him live in the house with a cat that isn't getting monthly flea treatments. And I can understand that because you want to make sure that your animal is being taken care of. And having your animal exposed to animals which have fleas or don't get flea treatments is problematic. And not to mention, if how do you move into a house where you're taking care of your dog but he's not taking care of your cat? The cat would also be your problem. So if he's saying that he can't afford to take care of his cat, then when you move in with him, he very well may look you in the face and say, I can't afford to take care of my cat. And instead of him framing it that way, he'll say, we can't afford to take care of these animals anymore. So that's also something to keep in mind looking forward or looking down the line as you're moving forward. I also had other concerns that he wasn't giving the cat the best life possible, but my boyfriend just felt like it was such a chore task and didn't want to. So he just felt like it was too much for him to do it, didn't want to really be bothered. That says a lot, especially if you're bringing an animal into the home that you care about. Because if he feels this way about his animal, he's certainly going to feel that way about your animal. So it's just something for you to think about. He started to get annoyed with me. He started to get annoying with his meowing all the time and spoke of kicking him out of the house constantly. During a brief breakup, me and my boyfriend he actually put him outside and he lived around the yard for months. Wow. Okay. That's cruel. He only let him back in because of the summer heat and was annoying hearing my concerns. So he was annoyed hearing her complain about the cat being outside. And like when people start being cruel to animals, especially their animals, that's a point of concern. Like the fact that he could put like he had a certain allegiance to the animal and he decided he was going to just put it outside and let it roam the yard is nutty to me. I mean, and the cat is crying because it wants to come in the house and it probably doesn't understand what it did wrong or why there's a shift in the attitude towards the cat. So, I mean, it's a very cruel thing that he did there. And I understand, like I said, that the one cat I was talking about, Jay, he was, even though he grew up in a home, he was essentially a feral cat. A feral is essentially a wild animal that you let live in your house. So you coexist with this animal. And that's kind of what I dug about him, is that he kind of had that rough edge. But he was like I said, he was a great cat, very gentle with people. Also with people. He was hard on anything he caught outside though. he was hard on them. He was gangster, but he was a solid cat, and I could imagine letting him go. Like anytime, like if he went out, there could be a time where he might be gone for a day or two, right? But every day you would be out calling him and you're looking for him, but you know he's coming back. He's just out doing what he do, because that's who he was. He was just outside, right? But I'm not locking him out. I'm not keeping him or barring him from the home, which is fundamentally different than what this guy is doing. He gets annoyed with the animal, he puts it out. So what happens when he gets annoyed with you? And that's where, like I said, the red flags would go up. It's not necessarily determinative of what he's going to do with her as a person in his relationship, but it's an indication. I suggested multiple times that if he didn't want to be a pet parent anymore, she used the word pet parent, so the fur baby, so now you're, this isn't somebody who is casually into animals. Again, you got to understand who your partner is with. If your partner is all about being a pet parent, then you can't mistreat your fur baby because they see it as part of their family. She sees the cat as part of her family or part of your family, and you're mistreating part of your family, and she's going to take note of that. So I suggested multiple times that if he didn't want to be a pet parent anymore, that he should surrender him to a shelter or a pound or just rehome him. But he kept saying that's too much work, or at times I thought he actually still enjoyed having the cat and just wasn't ready to let him. This kind of great. I'm trying to put it together. Still enjoyed having the cat and just wasn't ready to let him go, even if he wasn't being a responsible pet parent. So ultimately, it just comes down to selfishness. So either on one hand, either he's too lazy to actually take the cat down and make sure that the cat is being taken care of and given to somebody who can provide the cat the life and lifestyle that it deserves, or he likes the cat, wants to keep the cat around for his own selfish purpose and ends. And when the cat doesn't serve those purposes and ends anymore, he's done with the cat and he's ready to let it roam the street or basically neglect the cat. Either way, that's just it's a bad place to be. So we look at the next portion of what she says. It all blew up a week ago. He found a nice apartment that met all our desires and was a reasonable price, but I still said I wasn't ready to move until I had more saved and he paid off all his credit card debt. Now that's a huge thing. I think that there's not enough stress put on the idea of you making sure that before you move in with somebody that your finances are in order and their finances are in order. What you don't want to do is sign a lease with somebody, move in with that person, and they aren't paying their bills. And if they're a poor paymaster, meaning that they don't like paying rent, they don't like paying mortgage, they don't like paying their car note, they have poor credit and all that, and because they don't like paying their bills, they like running the bill up, but they don't like paying the tab once the tab hits the door, then you have to understand that if you move in with that person and you sign that lease, the lease people don't care if you're paying your half of the rent. So if the whole rent and nothing but the rent don't hit the landlord's door, all you get out, and it'll ruin your credit. So even if you get put out, you've been making payments the way you should be making payments on time, every time, and your roommate isn't, then if you get put out with your roommate, then your credit is going to be just as bad as your roommate's credit. So I 100% agree that she should make sure that his credit debt is taken care of. He got really pissed and said I was holding us back and refusing to move forward in our relationship. You're refusing to move forward in our relationship because you're not willing to take a risk on the bills and credit card statements that I racked up. Because you're not willing to share that with me, you're not ready to move forward with our relationship. You're failing us. No, it sounds like she's just saying that she wants to make sure everything is in order. There's also something to be said about people who try to rush you into things when you're not ready for those things. If it's a good deal on Friday, it's a good deal on Monday. Why do I have to make a decision on Friday when you just presented the information to me? Or why can't we make sure that we have things set up properly so that way when we move in with each other, there are less stressors and less problems that we're going to have down the line because we've taken care of those things before we moved in with each other. I completely agree with her position, and I'm a little dismayed by his rushing her or pressuring her to do something and throwing this temper tantrum. I always get nervous when people start throwing temper tantrums about stuff that they're not getting because they want it right now. I want it now, and you got to give it to me now. Like, you're a grown-ass man. According to this, he's 32 years old, so he's way old to be having this type of attitude. And if you're talking about living with a young lady and moving on to the next steps, then you're certainly too old to be throwing temper tantrums. The letter continues. He got really pissed and said, I was holding us back and refusing to move forward in our relationship. He started comparing me to other people my age who leave their parents' house and keep saying that I just must not want to leave my parents for some reason. Okay, even if that's the case, what he's trying to do is trying to shame her. Now, if you have a good argument as to why somebody should do something or shouldn't do something, that argument, if it's logical and it's correct, shouldn't involve you having to shame somebody into doing something. You're trying to embarrass her, or you're just being reliant. You're being a little mama's girl. You're being a little baby because you're saying all these things because you're afraid to move into a house with me and move out of the house with your mom. Out from under that security. No. What she's saying is that I don't want to move from a place of security where I'm building myself up to make myself stronger so that I can go out and be able to rent a place. I'm not willing to rush out and do that because there is a significant factor that he's ignoring in his little bullshit argument where he's trying to pressure her, is that if you rush to get out, if she did things the way he wanted her to do things and things don't work out, the only thing that's going to happen is she'll rush to get out there, rush to get this apartment, rush to put her name on something. It doesn't work because if he's not paying his bills or his credit cards are too high and he can't afford to pay his credit card, can't afford to pay his rent, or can't afford to pay his car note, or all those things happen at the same time, then what very well may happen is she may find herself right back at her parents' house in a worse position than she's in right now, which would, in fact, delay her ability to be able to move out from her parents' home and be independent. So it makes sense what she's actually saying and what she's saying she wants to do, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense from his position. I'm trying to see both sides, but I got to say that she's winning me over in this conversation. As a result of that argument, he got rid of the cat. So he didn't get rid of the cat because he doesn't want the cat anymore. He got rid of the cat because he wanted to punish you, which is in and of itself a problem. That's a problem. And though I said that there was flags and it's indicators and things like that, shit is a problem. So that's something that I would really be worried about. He drove him somewhere and abandoned him. So he just did the what they used to call it the catch-up. Play catch-up with the cat. He took him out to like a farm or whatever, put him out the car and then drove off. And left the cat out there to fend for itself, which is extremely cruel because the same way you drive way out to the farm, you could have drove to your local humanitarian site or like the pet adoption place and dropped the cat off. Now, in some places, you may have to pay $40 to drop a cat off, $50 or some nominal fee in order to drop the cat off because, that's just what they charge. But at the same time, if you can't afford the little nominal fee it is to drop a cat off, then you can't afford to get an apartment. That's where I would be at. If you can't afford that little $20 to $60 that it would cost you to drop your cat off, then why are we talking about apartments? You need to be talking about job applications, Huss. So that's where I'm at. He kept saying that's one less excuse for me to have. I'm honestly disgusted with his actions. He could have put it in the time. He could have put in the time and work to go about surrendering the cat the right way, but he just was too lazy and angry and could only think short-sightedly. Okay, and that's where you have to start making assessments. Like he got angry, he got mad, and he made a snap decision that this is something that he was going to do to hurt you. So the fact that this is what he was going to do to hurt you, again, if you're talking about moving yourself into this guy's house and you're taking your animal with you and he's willing to do that to his animal, what is he willing to do to yours? Just saying. I'm not saying that he's definitely going to do it, but that's something to consider. If he'll do it to his animal, the one that he was caring for and taking care of and loved and had for all that time, and he did that to his cat, then what is he going to do to your dog? I also think he did it partially to piss me off. He 100% did it to piss you off. I didn't express my frustration when we were arguing, but I don't know how I can look at him and not think of how selfish of an action it was. Because it was selfish, and you should look at him that way because that's what it was. And if that's how you feel about it, that's how you feel about it. You don't have to justify it to anybody. That's just how you feel. I'm also concerned that he will have issues living with my dog and lash out in a similar manner and a possible put him in harm's way. And that would be logical. I just said it. So we're all on the same page. We're all singing the same tune. And so with that being said, these are assessments that you have to make. Just because you get along today doesn't mean you're going to get along tomorrow. And just because you're in a relationship today and he may be the person that you think that you want to be with, when you start to see these signs and these indications these indications that he may be something different, or he may have a different attitude or perspective, or whatever the case may be. This is stuff that you have to take into account as you decide whether you want to move forward with this person or not, whether you want to invest in this person or not, and whether, more importantly, speaking of finances, whether you want to take a financial risk with this person or not. Somebody who can get angry and make snap decisions and make snap choices for you. Just something to think about. I'm just not sure if I'm being dramatic about it or not. It feels like a big red flag to me. Well, there you have it. There's your sign. If it feels like a big red flag to you, it doesn't matter what I think. Point blank. If you are in a situation or relationship and you feel like something ain't right, follow your gut. Follow your instincts. You know your situation better than anybody whom you can ask a question to, who you can talk to. You know what your situation is. Now, I understand talking to people so that you can get a different perspective of your situation and maybe get a different viewpoint on things that are occurring. And, oh, I never thought of it like that. But if something is hitting you in your gut that something isn't right, listen to yourself. That voice is there for a reason. And sometimes, and I'm speaking from experience, that sometimes that little voice can save your life. It can save your life. So make sure you listen to yourself. Trust yourself and listen to yourself. When you speak to you, that you should be listening. What'd you say? What'd you say, self? Okay, you right. Get rid of this weight. I need to lose some weight. Okay, you right. About 150 pounds, 200 pounds, 225, depending on how big he is. I'll take any opinions or advice on how to talk to my boyfriend about this situation and how it makes me feel. My opinion is this. First, as I said in one of my previous videos, because I do these videos every day, if you guys are enjoying it, make sure you give me the thumbs up. Share the videos because it really helps with the algorithm and help the channel out. I would simply say this. If you feel a certain way, everybody in the world who you're in a relationship with, you can have conversations with, but just because you have a conversation doesn't mean it's necessarily going to fix your relationship. And it doesn't mean it's going to fix your situation. You can explain your situation and your position to people all day, every day, all night long, and it might not move the needle one bit. And you have to be ready to act on the fact of how you feel versus how the person responds. If you feel like this relationship isn't working out, if you feel like how he treated the cat, Mr. Bojangles here, Mr. Sparky, Mr. Scarfs, Mr. Mittens, Stitches, or whatever the cat's name is, if you feel like you don't like how he treated that animal and you think that that's a red flag, that should be enough for you. Let me know what you guys think down below. That's my take. I'm James. This has been My Take on Reality, and I'm out.
'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side.